A24 returns to the realm of religious horror with Heretic, which releases in theaters this week after a successful debut at Toronto International Film Festival. Written and directed by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods, who penned the first A Quiet Place movie together, Heretic follows two young Mormon women who enter the home of an older gentleman known as Mr. Reed in the process of attempting to convert individuals questioning their faith. The movie slowly evolves from a theistic conversation to a suspenseful horror story when the girls find themselves trapped in the house and forced to play a game that pits their beliefs against their survival. Heretic has seen sweeping positive reviews, both thanks to the unusual approach to a genre film as well as the talented trio of actors at the movie's center. Sophie Thatcher, Yellow Jackets, and Chloe East, the Fablemans, play Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, who each have a very different and personal relationship with Mormonism, while Hugh Grant steps far outside his comfort zone to play the menacing Mr. Reed, whose veneer of religious curiosity masks a far more sinister motivation. Scott Beck, this movie specifically is designed to bring up every aspect of religion and belief. We always say it's about saying the quiet parts out loud. We want to be able to go through Mr. Reed, somebody who is ostensibly the villain character of the movie, but he makes some very convincing points because he's tapping into a subject matter that I think all of us have had deep thoughts about. And maybe we've not brought that discourse to the surface, but Mr. Reed is finally doing that for all of us. Bryan Woods, yeah, that's such a great question. When we write, we're very visual. We map out and do drawings with each other. Sometimes we will have very similar ideas, but sometimes I think a door's on the right, and he thinks it's on the left, and we have to get on the same page. But the reality is we had an amazing production designer in this film, Phil Messina, who did all the Hunger Games movies and did Darren Aronofsky's Mother, and he brought so many compelling ideas into this house to make it feel atmospheric and terrifying. The film's a chamber piece. It's three characters talking, but we wanted to surround the set with other characters, an ensemble, if you will, of ominous rainwater coming through the ceiling, the outline of a figure behind the girls' backs, and do everything we can to make the space feel claustrophobic and creepy. Scott Beck, oh, in a normal situation? I think each of these sisters have their own skill set. I think Sister Barnes is somebody that approaches with a lot of intellect, and with a lot of conviction as well that I think she can pack behind that intellect. Whereas with Paxton, we love that dichotomy where she's a little more eager. She's bubbly. She might be racing through these ideas, and otherwise, they would not be able to communicate as clearly their convictions. Whereas Sister Barnes, we love how measured she is, how specifically she really targets. And we wish the night's events had gone maybe a little differently. Bryan Woods, I think when writing this movie and talking about these kinds of cerebral, abstract, complex ideas of religion, the first goal was trying to attempt to make it palatable for a couple of idiots like Scott and I to understand. So, we were using fast food and Monopoly as metaphors for topics that are challenging. But the discovery, as we were researching this film about Monopoly and the history of Elizabeth Magee, just felt like such a clear metaphor for the history of religion and the idea of iterating. How there are ideas that are old and ancient that people can steamroll over and maybe even take credit for. Yeah, it was a joy to get to tell that weird history of Monopoly.